Andrew, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm tired.
End of the day.
Ted, Andrew, let me introduce you. Andrew is in the Air Force.
Okay.
He's finished the AIT, and where is it again?
I'm in Nashville.
Nashville? Okay.
Yep. I'm a member of the Tennessee Air National Guard, but I'm on active duty orders right now. So
Okay.
I'm doing full-time mission work.
Gotcha. Very good. Appreciate your service.
Hey, Ted. Hi there. Welcome to the club. Thanks
Thank you, Greg.
for visiting us.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you.
Appreciate you coming. So
You bet.
hopefully we can get some good insight on the foundation from somebody that really knows what they're talking about here. So
Well, I'm only because I've done it a lot. I'll put it that way.
Good. That means you're qualified. So good.
Well, maybe so. Maybe so. Yeah. Maybe so. Now I'm a firm believer in the abilities of the foundation provide for doing lots of good service. So yeah.
No, I agree.
That was the biggest thing. So Ted, I don't know if you know, you probably do, John Hinson out of Henderson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he's a longtime family friend.
Okay.
And was the one who actually is probably the reason I went to RILA way back when, and am still involved in Rotary.
Sure.
And when I first told John that we were starting the E-Club, one of the things he told me about and was really excited that I would learn about was the foundation, because he was like, I think you will quickly come to see why it is the donation of choice for many of us.
Yep. It's the second largest donation besides my church. You know, I support it. Yeah, I'll talk about that some, about why I feel confident doing that. But yeah.
Isn't it rated really high too? I mean, they rate them, and I mean
Yes.
I mean, most of the money goes towards something.
Yes.
It doesn't go towards paying people and stuff like that.
No, it does not. It does not.
Which is good.
Yep.
Donors Choose, I think, is the website that usually that I've heard referred to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is 6:02, so we'll go ahead and get started. So that way Ted can talk about all the things. He's like, I'll talk about that in a little bit. So before we get started, Andrew, are you still around? We'll get back to him later. Okay,
Yes,
cool. I just was going to see if you wanted to say something a little bit about the service project before we get started.
Yes. So our service project, our members should have received the email with containing the details, but we are partnering with BeTheMatch.com to register people for bone marrow and DNA transfer donations. It's a simple process. Anyone between the ages of 18 and 40 can join the registry, and it's a way that is a direct way to help save somebody's life. I want to say only about a third of people who need that kind of transplant have a DNA relative that's able to donate. So trying to expand the registry. Most people who donate, it's a non-surgical procedure. It's more like if you've ever donated plasma or something, they're able to get what they need by just kind of cycling out some of your blood and and then giving it back after they take what they need. And I think only like 10 or 15% of people require any form of surgery to donate. The odds of donating, being called on to donate, are fairly small, but like I said, it's an easy way to directly save somebody's life. So if you know anyone who would be open to joining the registry, Our goal is to get 2 people to join per member of our club. And yeah, so promote. I shared some posts on social media last night about it, and I'll continue to promote and talk to people and see if we can't have anything get some traction on this.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah. And so that's something that we were wanting to kind of reach out to the other district clubs about as well. Hey, LaRonda. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Hey, Michael. I see you hopping
Hello,
on.
good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Any other quick announcements before we hand it over to Wes or Greg? I think.
Actually, you'll be handing it over to Greg.
Yeah, I was like, in my mind, it was there somewhere.
All right, well, oh,
All right, go ahead, Greg.
all right, sorry, I was jumping in there. If you're ready to
No,
go.
you're right.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm proud to have Ted, why did I'm saying it? Ted Huffhines here as our speaker tonight. He's going to be speaking about the Rotary Foundation. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about him right now. Ted was asked to join Rotary International in 2008. He's a member of the Marshall Rotary Club of Marshall, Texas, and has served as club president, foundation chair, and has also served as assistant governor for District 5830. The Marshall Club was selected as the outstanding civic organization in Marshall during Ted's year as president. The club continued to increase its foundation giving. Each year he served as foundation chair. He received the club's Service Above Self Award in 2014 and the Rotarian of the Year in 2017. In 2023, Ted received a citation for meritorious service from the Rotary Foundation. Ted and Angela are Archcomp Society members, major donors, Bequest Society, Polio Plus Society, and Paul Harris Society members. Ted has been a trainer at multiple Lone Star Pets, Zone 31 trainings, and District 5830 events. A highlight for Ted was attending the Rotary International Convention in Lisbon and Hamburg, and then touring parts of Europe with other Rotarians from across the USA. He and Angela have attended the Rotary International Conventions in Lisbon, Atlanta, Toronto, Hamburg, and Houston, quite a few. He enjoyed serving District 5830 as governor during 2017 to 2018. During 2017 to 2018 Rotary year, the district set records for giving to the Rotary Foundation Annual Fund and the Polio Plus Fund. He has served District 5830 as district trainer and foundation chair. He will serve as Zone 31 Paul Harris Society chair for 2019 to 2020, which he did. So assistant regional foundation coordinator for 2020 and 2021, and endowment and major gifts officer for 2021 to 2024. Ted and Angela have been married for 39 years. They're proud parents of Holly, whose husband is Brad, and Heather, whose husband is Garrett. They have 2 granddaughters, Meg and Nora. Their children are all Paul Harris Fellows. Ted and Angela are both retired educators. Ted was a teacher and coach, and he also served for many years as a high school principal and district administrator. Both of their daughters followed their parents into education and are high school teachers as well. The entire family are graduates of the University of Texas at Austin and proudly support the Longhorns. Ted is an active member of his local church. He also served his community as an elected member of the Marshall ISD Board of Trustees. He's also a past board member of the Christus Good Shepherd Hospital System, Boys and Girls Club, Harrison County Appraisal District, and Harrison County, Texas Exes and Local Food Pantry. He's now serving on the Genesis Prime Care Board of Prime Care Board and Chamber of Commerce Board. In addition to his community service and volunteer work, he loves to travel, hunt, and play golf. So thank you, Ted, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Can I share my screen? Can I do that?
Always forget that I have to enable that. Okay, there you go.
All right. Y'all be patient with me while I get this caught up here. And we'll go slideshow. Wait and start. There we go. All right. Rotary Foundation. I know from talking with James that we have all levels of understanding of the Rotary Foundation. And I'd be the first to tell you that it's probably like anything that's got some level of complexity to it, you know, the more you're exposed to it, the better you begin to understand it. But also, if you don't kind of stay with it a little bit, you kind of forget. So questions today, you know, again, what to know, why it matters, you know, why does the foundation matter? So those are, we'll certainly want to, you know, there we go, how to support it, and then also how to benefit from it. So those are kind of the answers that I hope you get. If at the end of the day you don't have those answers, raise a question at the end and we'll discuss it a little bit. So all right, the Rotary Foundation is the funding arm of Rotary International, providing Rotary the resources to carry out its mission. Basically, this is the mechanism that Rotary came up with, and I'll talk about where it originated, but it's the mechanism that allows us to do good. I know from looking at the projects in your club, you know, any one of us can have a level of impact by doing it, but when we combine together, and the Rotary Foundation is a way that allows us to do that, but it allows us to have a bigger impact. You know, and certainly we want to do that. And of course, we want to do it with world understanding. Peace is a huge part. Improving health, supporting education, which I know is an important piece to y'all. And so those things. It started in 1916-17. Arch Klump was the president of Rotary International at that time, and he said, hey, we need to have a foundation. This is what's going to allow us to do good in the years to come. The Rotary Club of Kansas City, Missouri gave the first gift in honor of Paul Harris, who's the father of Rotary, but it was a gift for $26.50. I think what I have understood is that that's equivalent to about $500 today. So that's where it started with. But it's, again, it's a little over 100 years old. There's been over $4 billion that have been given to life-changing and sustainable projects. This year alone, or this past year alone, $73 million in global grants. Global grants are grants that are a minimum price of $30,000, but they can go up into several $100,000. And so all kinds of sizes. We talked about this briefly when we were visiting earlier. You asked about the rating of, and Rotary Foundation has received a 4-star rating, which is the highest rating you can receive for 14 years in a row. Charity Navigator, they're an organization that looks at all the nonprofits and all the charities in the United States and in North America, and they do this rating. And again, you can see there only 1% of charities receive this. So, you know, you can feel good about giving your money to the foundation. And you may be aware of this, there's certainly a Rotary International president that switches every year. There's a Rotary board of directors. There are 17 directors around the world. They are each responsible for 2 zones. They have them staggered, so it's net, they don't all change at any one time. But then the foundation has a board of trustees, and those individuals are the ones that are driving the way that the funds are used and the projects that are funded. Certainly Rotary International has a strong level of professional people that help invest the money and help work with the districts and with the trustees to do all the different things that they do. I think this is a good one, and we mentioned this, 95% of your money that you give, that we give, is actually used to do good works. It's not going to pay salaries, or it's not going to pay for exorbitant travel or things like that. I can speak personally, you know, they do a very, very good job of monitoring how even how that 5% is used. And I've, you know, like I said, I feel comfortable with that. Areas of focus, I think these are, you know, important that we understand these. And again, you may know these by heart, but you may not. But certainly peace building and conflict resolution. Just this past year, they started a new Peace Scholar program in Northern Africa. They have Peace Scholar programs, 6 different universities around the world that are, and primarily those are people that go to those places to get the training, get the education, and then use it to help promote peace. Our district, and I think I have it on one of these later slides, our district has actually helped support a couple of students, actually 3 in the past, I guess, 6 years to go and further their education with the desire to do that. Certainly disease prevention and treatment. The first one you think about is polio, but there's so much more than that. And certainly just health education. And we'll talk about both of those. One that is very appealing to me, and only because, you know, I've had the opportunity to go to Africa multiple times. I've been to Central America and Mexico. You know, you see the level of just unclean water that people are using, and the problems that it causes. And I think, you know, the work that we do that can help promote clean water, sanitation, you know, this year's president, Jennifer Jones, has and actually Shaker Mehta before her, you know, has made a huge emphasis on education for girls and opportunities for girls, and certainly hygiene has carried into that and been a big part of that. Maternal and child health, again, another huge one. Our district has really been engaged in this. Really one of the first global grants that our district did back, I think it was finally approved between 16 and 17, but it started in Guatemala. And, you know, it went down there with the whole intent of trying to help mothers giving birth to babies on a floor in a hospital. And all that was totally revamped, redone through about $140,000 global grant that our district did. And because of that, it reduced the child mortality rate by 61%. And so just a huge impact. And the other beauty of that is that there have, because of that connection in Northern Guatemala, and with a really small Rotary Club there, there has been well over $100,000 in residual projects that have come out of that to do good and to help people there. Basic education and literacy, certainly, you know, helping people learn how to read and those kind of things, providing educational opportunities through scholarships, certainly are all of those. And then economic development, it's one that we don't often think about, but, you know, in so much of the world, they're living on just small amounts, $1 a day, $2 a day, and providing opportunities for them to, you know, develop small businesses that improve their quality of life. Had the opportunity this past summer to go to Kenya, and we've helped a small area outside of Nairobi to put in some drip irrigation for just small quarter-acre farms. But that's but that little bit, it was like $1,500 per farm, per plot. That is going to increase the earnings 9 and 10-fold for those families on the ability to improve their crops. The most recent one is environmental support that came on board in 2021, and certainly the year I was governor, Ian Risley was our international president, and his challenge to every district governor and every Rotary Club was to plant 1 tree for every member in your club. And they far exceeded that. I won't say that every club planted trees or every district planted enough for every Rotarian, but there were more trees planted around the world than there are Rotarians. This past year, $434 million was donated to the Rotary Foundation, which exceeded the goal. The goal was about 410. And so even in the midst of COVID, even in the midst of the uncertainty with the economy, people still give and still support. We had almost 1,200 global grants, again, $73 million. Global grants, again, like I mentioned earlier, are $30,000 as a minimum, but they do all these different things. District grants, each year in District 5830 and in districts all around the world, clubs are offered the opportunity to do some local projects and international. And so we put together all those when they come together. I know right now we're getting pretty close. I think the grant applications are due the 1st of June, and they'll have to go through approval, and then those will be submitted as a district grant. But all in told, again, and this has always made me wonder, but 478 out of 535 districts worldwide applied. There was $27 million that was dispersed, and those do all kinds of stuff. Here in 5830, our grants, we've got clubs that provide RILE scholarships. I know that's near and dear to some of y'all. We've got them that are buying coats or buying shoes or helping with, I know my club, we do 4. We help support our local food pantry. We help our mission, it's called Mission Marshall, but they do a thing called Read to Ride, which basically we challenge every 3rd grader to improve their reading level by a year's worth or whatever the teacher recommends. But if they do that, they get a brand new bicycle and a bicycle helmet. And so our club gives money to help purchase those bicycles and helmets. We also help support some education. We gave scholarships for 6 students in Liberia through the foundation and school called the Annie T. Doe Memorial School. And then we're doing one of those projects down in Guatemala. We partnered with the Tyler Rotary Club to purchase a ophthalmic ultrasound machine. And you say, well, why did we do that? Well, in this area, there's one doctor, ophthalmologist. She serves over 650,000 people. And if you needed that service from that type of machine, you had to travel 12 hours one way to get treatment. And so, this is going to certainly really help a large number of people because they won't have to make those travels. And those aren't highway miles, by the way, from what I'm told. Disaster response grants, again, huge. Last year we did $15 million to Ukraine. We did another $8 million for other disaster grants. If you're familiar recently with the tornado in Rolling Fork, Mississippi, where there's been hurricanes down along the coast in the Louisiana area, we had the tornado in Idabel and Broken Bow. Those are the type of things that disaster response grants give. And so those are available as well. Polio, again, signature program. It's been around. You could probably ask, I would assume everybody here knows about polio, but maybe not. But you could certainly go into a lot of schools today and they just really don't know about it because it's been eradicated here in the United States for decades, 45, maybe 50 years. But in 1985, Rotary said, hey, we're gonna begin doing this. They had done a pilot program in the Philippines for about 5 or 6 years before that and were successful. But at that time, there was roughly 1,000 cases a day, 1,000 new cases of polio a day around the world. And so 5 core partners, those would be CDC, World Health, and on like that. 200 countries that are involved. 2.5 billion children have been vaccinated. It's taken over 20 million volunteers. Again, the U.S. Spends about $17 billion in international investment in this. And at the international convention in Atlanta, they brought up and they had a big celebration and they announced all the different amounts of money that different countries were giving. South Korea, Japan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, France, Germany, Canada, Mexico. You know, you have a lot of countries that are putting a lot of money towards this. So it's not just Rotary. But again, the goal in the end of the day is a polio-free world. The best thing about this that's been going on, the Gates Foundation, if you give $1, they contribute $2. The catch to that is that Rotary International has to raise $50 million in a Rotary year to get $100 million match. And fortunately, we've been able to do that every year since it started. And as well, they have continued to say that they will continue to support that. And I think that's a great partnership. This past year, almost $153 million in Polio Plus grants around the world to help eradicate that. You say, well, where are we? You can actually get this information. There's been 30 type 1 wild polio virus cases in 22. Some of those, basically the 2 countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan. There's been a couple in Africa and around the world. But this year so far, there's only been 1 case, and that's been in Pakistan, which is pretty amazing. To be considered eradicated, it requires 3 years of zero. I know back in 17 and 18, we were down to less than, I think, 30 cases. And then after that, it began to climb back up, but now it's begun to go back down. And I think there's some serious belief that that we can actually get to zero maybe by the end of the decade. I think that's very reasonable. How are contributions to the Rotary Foundation recognized? Well, there's recognition. We generally do this every year at the Foundation Gala. We give out little banners that we give to the clubs, but there's one that's called Every Rotarian Every Year. Just everybody gives $25. You know, if everybody in your club gives $25, then you get that, and that's called E-Ray, Every Rotarian Every Year. The next one is to be a Paul Harris sustaining member. If everybody in your club gives $100, you're considered a sustaining club, and you're recognized for that. A Paul Harris Fellow is equal to $1,000 in total giving or points, and I'll talk about points in a minute. But accumulation, it doesn't have to be a one-time donation. It can be done over a number of years. There's a program called Rotary Direct, which says you can either have it drafted out of your bank or go to a credit card, however you want to do it. Minimum, I think, is $10. But if you do $83.50, I think is the number. But if you do $83.50 every month, you'll get a new Paul Harris Fellow every year, and that is actually called. I'll get down to it, a Paul Harris Society member. And that's somebody that gives $1,000 a year. Certainly after you get a Paul Harris Fellow, which is a great accomplishment, we encourage people to keep giving. And every time you get to another $1,000 or points, you get a Paul Harris plus 1, which would mean you've done $2,000 or 2,000 points, Paul Harris plus 3, and so on. And it goes on up. They give you pins. You can see the little pictures, and you start with the first one, and then they just go on and on and on. They show you what they look like. A Paul Harris Fellow recognition pin right there to the left is pretty basic. This has been going on, I think since the 40s. I think that's when they first started this, and certainly you can imagine $1,000 in the 40s or 50s was significantly more than it is today, but you kind of get the idea of how it works. Beyond that is a major donor. Major donors are divided into levels. The first one is $10,000, and that's actual dollars. That has no points included. So someone over a period of time or in one gift gives $10,000, they're considered a major donor level 1. $25,000 cumulative giving is level 2. $50,000 is level 3, and then $100,000 is level 4. The Arch Clump Society goes beyond that, and then you can see the numbers there: 250,000, 500,000, $1 million, and so on. You get a pin for being a major donor, and they have the little diamond included on it, 1 for a major donor 1, and then a 2, and so on. All right. Challenges to your club: become every Rotarian every year club. You know, when it talks about giving, and we're going to talk about why that's important here in just a minute. But you know, it's just encouraging people to be givers and to give, and we'll talk again why that's important. Certainly, to become a Paul Harris Sustaining Club, you know, try to get everybody to give 100. With the emphasis on polio this year, our trustees encouraged every club to have everyone give $100 to the annual fund and $30 to Polio Plus. So it'd be $130. You can certainly divide that out. It's a little over $10 a month. A pretty special one, and there are very few of these, but they are out there, and they're Paul Harris Society clubs. Everybody says, I'm going to give $1,000 a year. That may be a little rich for some of us, but there are clubs that actually do that, and it's pretty impressive. Again, incentive programs in the Rotary Foundation world. I talked about points a minute. Every dollar that you give generates 1 foundation recognition point. So if I give $100, I get 100 points. If I give $50, I get 50 points. If I give $500, I get 500 points. Okay. Clubs and individuals receive these points. So either an individual can give them, or the club, if the club had money that they had raised, the E-Club Leaders in Service could give a donation to the Rotary Foundation. Let's say they give $1,000, and they would have 1,000 points, and they can use these points. The one thing I will tell you, they can only be transferred 1 time. So if if you have points and you want to, for example, you heard that my children are Paul Harris Fellows. My children are Paul Harris Fellows because I gave 1,000 points in their name. And, I wish they had given some of the money, but they didn't. But anyway, that's kind of how that works. You can consider a 2-for-1 matching program. Somebody gives $100, the club will match it. So, they'll get 100 points from the foundation, and they'll get another 100. So they'll have 200 points, and they'll be given. And all it does is it allows you to get to your Paul Harris faster, to your Paul Harris Plus faster. And if your club ever has any interest about doing that, we've done it at the district level. We pretty much do it every year. But if your club wants to just do it in your club, have your foundation chair give me a call. I'll help you find some points, and it's not very difficult. We can get you started there. But again, illustration point there. Okay, why does this benefit your club? Again, you have the opportunity to participate in global or district grants. Okay, and that's your club saying, hey, we want to do either something local or something done. And you say, well, how does that work? Well, I'm going to use $1,000 donation. And because as Rotary tabulates giving, they look at all the members of a club. So if all the members of the club gave different levels, different amounts, but at the end of the year, it was $1,000. Okay, $1,000. 3 years later, and that's $1,000 to the annual fund, not to polio, it's just to the annual fund. But you gave $1,000 to the annual fund. 3 years later, half of that money would come back, because they also look at it to the district. Now, so that would be $500 that would come back. And when I say come back, it comes back to the district to have control over. The district allows the clubs, in this case your club, half or a fourth of it. So a fourth of 1,000 is 250, or a half of 500 is 250. Sometimes I have to explain that because it can get confusing. But it allows you to use that 250, but you have to match it. So you'd have a $500 project. You say $500 is not very much. Well, what if you bought school supplies? Or what if you used it for your RILA scholarships? Or what if there's a myriad of things that you can do to help people. And you can buy wheelchairs and send them to Mexico or to Central America or to Africa for right at $5,000. That's life-changing. If you've ever seen children that have to hobble around or have to have someone carry them, a wheelchair doesn't just help the kid that gets the chair, it helps the caregivers. immensely. And so, I mean, that's an easy one. And you say, well, still, I'm just not sure. You can join with other clubs. I mentioned earlier, my club and Tyler, we joined together to do that ultrasound machine. And so it's a collaborative effort. Again, it's spreading the amount of people that work together to do good. Here are some of the examples of over the past decade. The anti-parasite treatment in Guatemala impacted 4 million children. Children that had parasites, their growth was stunted, their ability to learn was impacted. Certainly community water treatment and sand filter refurbishment in Honduras. I mentioned the Peace Scholars earlier. The NICU unit, which I mentioned, we totally redid that. James is familiar, and we've done a number of these heart-to-heart projects in southern and central Mexico. Some of those include elementary safety fences in Tlaquepaque. I mentioned the wheelchairs. WASH projects generally are restroom renovation and fresh water, and certainly also buying medical equipment, different amounts and different things. In 21, we did a global grant for restroom renovation and water tanks at 8 elementary schools for about $110,000. We didn't pay all for that. We paid a good portion of it as a district. We used our DDF, that money that comes back from the foundation. But what we did is we collaborated with other districts from around the United States, because for $110,000, we had to come up with about $62,000 in DDF. And so we cobbled all that together. And so we collaborated with multiple districts to do that, but we got it done. Just this year, we just completed and got the approval for a $72,000 global grant for an indigenous group of people. They live basically about 11 and a half to 12 hours over mountain roads up in the mountains north of Guadalajara. They're pretty much all to themselves. It's about 280 people, and they were having health issues because of the lack of sanitation and using the restroom. And a Rotary Club there in Guadalajara came up with a plan to build dry toilets. And I actually had the opportunity in January to meet with some of these Rotarians in that club and see some of the pictures, because they had to redo the roads just to get up there. And I forgot to mention, the last 3 hours of that was walking, because the roads, you couldn't get a vehicle up there. And so, but what it did is, they're building these, and it's going to provide about between 45 and 50 dry toilets, which will basically eliminate the sanitation problems. So again, you can cobble together, you can work together to do those. And I think that's the power of the Rotary Foundation. We were talking earlier, and why do you get into Rotary? Well, certainly you get into, I'm speaking for myself. I got into Rotary to meet new people, but I stayed in Rotary because of the opportunity to serve and help other people. And certainly a lot of that is raising money, but it's also going out, doing cement work at a school, putting a roof on a classroom building, repainting classrooms, passing out shoes to special needs children. Those are Rotary moments that change your life. And, just the opportunity to do good in the world. And, I'll make this really clear. It doesn't matter how much you give. You say, I don't have a lot of money. That's okay. But I would challenge everyone in your club to start somewhere, start small and see where it goes. And just look at the opportunities that you have to do and to change the world. My contact information is there. If you have questions, it's pretty simple. Ted Huffhines at gmail.com and my phone number. And, my email is also on the district website. So anyhow, see if I can stop this. All right. Do this, stop share. There we go. All right. Questions? Anybody?
Thank you, Ted. Hey, let me ask you this. So I'm the foundation chair. How did you get your club to increase their giving? What things did you do?
That's a great question, because I don't care whether it's a club or a district. It's a cultural thing. It's a culture thing. And my club, it was as much leading by example, not just me. We have a number of people that are Paul Harris Society members. We have a number that are Rotary Direct people that just believe. And I put those challenges in front of them, me and other people. It's not just me. I think also the critical piece to it, because it's kind of like going to church, and if all they ever do is preach about money, people eventually go find someplace else. I think you have to show people the good that's being done. Pictures have to be done, have to be shown. And another thing is, as you have opportunity to go into the world, anybody here ever been overseas? Show of hands. You know, if you, and you know, unless you're just doing the touristy stuff, if you've had opportunity to go to certainly some of the third world countries, you see needs and you have the opportunity to come back. And whether you help those people that you saw or another people like that, I think that's what moves people's hearts. Because Rotarians, as a general rule, people that are actively involved and stay in Rotary, have a heart for helping other people. You know, I think one of the challenges that is there is, oh by golly, we've got all these needs in our local community, and yes, we do. But we also live in the most profitable country in the history of the world, and I'm adamant we've got to help those around us. You know, I shared with you the projects that we do in Marshall, but it took some time, but through conversations, through pictures, through guest speakers coming in, and in this day and age, you can get people from all over the world. But talk about those needs and see what you come up with, because I think when people see that, they begin to see, and again, you got to start small. I don't know how many members y'all have. How many members do you have in your club? 20, 15?
Yeah.
Something in that range. You know, that's considered a small club, but you know, slowly over time, you cultivate those. But you know, I'd challenge you to tag along. You know, you give some this year, you know, finish out the 2022, 23 year, you know, have some kind of push here between the end of the year so that your giving comes back. Well, you know, in 24, 25, you'll have access to those funds, and then just begin to build upon that. And you may say, well, we don't have very much. Well, again, you've got connections in the Henderson Club. You've got connections in the Marshall Club. You've got connections in Tyler. There's a lot of places that people would say, okay, yeah, come alongside us. Because at the end of the day, when those projects are done, they don't put a list up there and say, this club gave this much money and this club gave this much money. All they do is say the E Club of 5830 Leaders in Service and the Tyler Club and the Marshall Club and the Henderson Club joined together to do this to help improve the lives of people in this particular place. And, you know, there's, I mean, that warms my heart. You know, I don't mind saying it. And, you know, the people that we help are generally very, very good partners with sending pictures and sending slideshows and stuff like that. So you know, you can share that, because, you know, as you begin to try to attract people to be a part of your club, you know, people want that. I mean, the average age here is young for a Rotary Club. But
Ted, have you done anything to like make it easier to make donations? We're an E Club. So I know we can say we'll get online and do it, but have you ever done anything like automatic withdrawals or?
Well, that's what Rotary Direct is. Rotary Direct is automatic withdrawal every month. It's just filling out a form. When you go to rotary.org and you hit the donate button and slide down the page, I mean, they've got everything. I mean, it's so much better than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty simple. It really is. You know.
When does the, I know our district oftentimes does matches. I know we just did one recently. Is there another one coming up soon? Do you know?
There's not. We did one back at the first of, you know, of the calendar year. We did it January and February. Most of the time we've done them at the end of the year. And Jack Welge and Tom DeWitt wanted to try doing it a little sooner, which is fine. But again, if your club wants to do a matching points campaign, call me, text me, email me, and I'll walk you through it. I'll find some points for you, and boom, away you go. So yeah,
Alrighty.
that finding the points and finding out how to do it will not be the hurdle that you have to overcome.
Okay.
We'll help you get that done.
Yeah, look at
All
the
right.
questions in the chat. See, I posted some questions. See what you think of those.
Oh, yes. All right. Giggle. I like that. All right. Does the foundation issue audited financial statements? If so, are they on the website? They issue, I would say yes to that. I don't know how simple they are to find them, but there is every year they present a final report for the Rotary Foundation. Okay. And it is an audited report. I don't know to what degree of documentation that you're looking for. Okay. But they do have that. And the next question is, you're saying is that a small club like ours can contribute a small amount per person and then leverage this money into a larger project funded with district and foundation money, provided our club participates in the project. Yes. Right. Now, I will tell you up front, our arrangement is not that, okay, we've only got this much money. I'm going to use the number I used earlier, $250, or we've only got $500 and we want to do a $15,000 project. You're going to need to come alongside other clubs and get them to join with you. Okay. Does that make sense? To be able to leverage some of that. But yes, it is possible to do that. And the global grant process for a small club. Well, here, the number one thing in global grants is you've got to find a great project. And then you've got to begin to work with an international partner. I didn't mention this earlier, but global grants are done on an international basis, which means any of the clubs in District 5830, we can't do a global grant in the United States. It has to be in a foreign country. So you've got to find the project and you've got to find an international partner. That's why we've been able to do so much with both Guatemala because of the Tikal Rotary Club, as well as through Heart to Heart in Mexico, because those Rotary clubs there understand and they have they have a level of training that has helped them in developing. You know, one of the key ingredients to any global grant is that we as Westerners, because I would put Europeans in any of the first world countries, it's not our responsibility to go to Africa and say, you need this. That's not our role, because 9 times out of 10, we're trying to make them do something that fits our view of what it should be. The best global grants are going and developing relationships with people and saying, okay, what do you need? And I'll give you the example. When I went to Kenya this summer, it was with an orphanage and babies home primarily, but a buddy of mine from over in Mississippi, a Rotarian. Our intent there was to meet with Rotarians in that area and travel around and try to find Rotary projects. And we did. We found probably 15, 20 of various sizes. The biggest challenge is getting the Rotarians there to develop the bandwidth, if you want to call it, to do the global grant writing, because it's not us writing the grant, it's them. We're the partner that comes alongside them. Now, I will say this, there are, and we just had one recently, last week on the zone level, global grant, how to write global grants. Well, you could easily go to the Zone 3031 website, and I don't know if it's up yet, but it will be up in the next probably 5 to 10 days if it's not already. That'll be on there and you can watch it. There's also an arm of the Rotary Foundation called the Cadres. These are experts in global grants, and people used to think they were the foundation police, and they're not. Their job is to help you walk through how to do and how to write successful, productive global grants, because you have experts that have done it dozens and dozens of times. So I hope I answered that one pretty good. Other questions?
What is your, and you might have answered this in a roundabout way, I guess, favorite thing that you've seen the foundation do?
Wow.
Or maybe one in recent memory that comes to mind.
Wow. You know, that's a hard sell. I mentioned the ophthalmic thing, and I just know we did that. During COVID, we joined together, and this wasn't a global grant; it was just a district grant. But we joined together and cobbled together funds from, I don't know, 6 or 8 clubs in our district, and we helped pay for a triage for COVID. You had people that were visiting this hospital, and they were having to go into old military surplus tent. That was just not a good situation. And we paid for them, and they did all the work, but we paid for the supplies and we paid for the work to be done. But they bought an old shipping container, a pretty large one, and had doors cut in it, had foundation laid, put it there, painted it, and did the interior so that they could triage people that were coming into the hospital. And I thought, how cool is that? Because it was certainly a very big need. Probably alongside of that was, I mentioned that hospital that where the babies were being born. Well, the mothers were having to breastfeed their babies, in unair conditioned, in the sun, outside, because they didn't have space. And 2 Rotary clubs in our district pulled together and built a lactation center, like what you would see here in the States, and I think, when you see that kind of stuff, that's life-changing. It's life-changing I've never been a mother, but, I've got 2 granddaughters, and I've been active in the raising of my own daughters, and just seeing them and going, and I can't imagine them having to struggle with that kind of stuff. James can probably relate to this. When I went on a heart-to-heart trip back in, I guess, 18, we went to a hospital that was a private hospital, would look like anything that you would see in the States. But we listened to 25 or 30 testimonies from people that had kidney transplants. And they had come, and we listened to the recipient as well as the donor. And most of them were family, some were friends. But when the other side of that story is, it was all funded by a global grant, about $300,000. If you're a person middle to lower class, your chance, and you have kidney disease, and your chance of getting a kidney transplant is 0. And Rotarians there had gone through that, had figured that out, and had partnered with the United States with a bunch of districts here. Our district has supported that in years past. But to hear those testimonies, kids that are 25, 18, 32, to hear a dad that gave a kidney to his son, and he said, if my daughter has it, I'll give her the other one. That's life-changing. That's giving it all. And I just thought how powerful that is, because I think so often, for all our faults and for all the challenges that we have here in the United States, we've got it really good. We got it really good. And when you go to some of these places and you see the difference that we're able to make and help, and it just improve the quality of life, those are some of the ones that really stand out to me.
Hey, Ted, in January, with the point program that you initiated, I gave $1,000, so that got me $2,000 and a Paul Harris pen. Here's the deal I'll make. I want to be a good example for our rest of our club. We have a fabulous club. I'm going to challenge our president, our club president-elect, to get $100 from each of the members, except the students, except those who are enrolled in school.
Mhm.
I'm going to donate $1,000. I'm going to add another $1,000. You just tell me how you want it. If you want points, fine. If you don't want, but I'll tell you right now, I'm going to write a check next week or this week, $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation, with the hope that our president-elect will go fish and at least $100 from every other member, come up with another 1,000 to match it. So
Okay.
we're putting
I
our
like
money.
that challenge.
We're putting our money into the deal. I've been fortunate.
Folks, that is a great illustration of what you asked earlier. You
And
know,
that's,
it's just taking that step, and you say, $100, just divide it. I mean, it's $25 a week. How much do you spend on, on sodas or on coffees or, whatever, and,
That's like a week of coffee for Layla. I mean,
there you go.
hey, I don't know how many students we have, but why don't we ask them to give at least 25 bucks? They can do something.
Sure.
I mean, that would get our club to be, that's
You're right.
my thing. I think everybody should at least donate something. It's great to give points, but until they give, they need to do a little bit of giving themselves. So,
Yep.
Ted, hey, I had a quick question about, we had a couple of cases of polio in the US, last year or year before? How did that
We had one in New
affect?
York. We had one in London, had one in Israel. Those
Yeah, how
were
did-
all vaccine derived.
Okay. Were
Which
they?
They were not wild polio.
I thought they were older patients.
And
And they were vaccinated?
Right. There were people that hadn't been vaccinated and got it. It transmitted because of the previous vaccines that they used that had some. Now they don't use them anymore. I'll clarify that, but were some remnants of that. And I think that illustrates, because our country, bless our hearts, we're going through a vaccination crisis. And again, I'm not playing politics or which side of the fence you're on, but it's carrying over to stuff that clearly the vaccine works, and clearly it's been an issue. I mean, if we eradicate polio, it'll be the second disease ever eradicated other than smallpox.
Well, yeah, definitely. Polio is definitely a vaccine that truly works.
Right.
I mean, we know that.
Right.
So, but
But it's only an airplane ride away, and if children are not vaccinated, by choice, because that's pretty much what it is, in Pakistan, the challenge is the tribal leaders, and it's only in a particular area.
Yeah.
And it's remote and people move around a lot and all of that. But here it's choice. Well, I just don't want my kid to have any vaccines. And that was happening before COVID. It's not just a COVID thing. But that is a risk. I mean, it could come back, because the other question that a lot of times people ask, and I'll throw this in kind of there, is, well, we're down to just one case right now. Why don't we just stop? I mean, it's over with. The research says that in 10 years, we'll be back to 200,000 cases a year. That's not where we were, but that's 500 cases a day, and so we've got to finish. And that's why that $30 or, we even have a Polio Plus Society now, which says you get a little pin for it. It's kind of neat looking, but it says, I'll give $100 a year until polio is fully eradicated. And again, I know we have a younger group here, but how many people have a relative that ever had polio that you know of? So I had 2.
I still see patients that have polio. They walk in, they're older patients. I can tell right away. I can see their foot drop, and they're weak. They don't have muscles on that leg. And
in 2008, I had my first opportunity to go to Africa. I went to Ethiopia on a mission trip, and we did some medical clinic stuff, and we saw people that had polio and survived, but they were crippled, paralyzed, whatever you want to call it, in certain parts of their body. and people that were scooting around on what amounted to as a skateboard, that kind of stuff, or with rickety old little sticks. I wouldn't even call them whatever, but anyway, so we saw it had not been eradicated in Ethiopia at that point. It was still a couple years away, but yeah. So if you've seen it, like you realize how important it is to get vaccinated and get it eradicated. So
this might be a immunology rabbit hole, but do you know by any chance if when they talk about like considering it eradicated, do they still consider the vaccine derived cases?
I don't, but my assumption on that is the 3 years of 0 wild cases, because that's really the number that we always talk about.
It's my assumption as well. I was just curious.
Right. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Y'all been a great group. Good questions. I appreciate it.
This has been awesome, Ted. Thank you so much.
You bet. Anytime.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Certainly.
Absolutely. Well, if there is nothing else, I will drop the 4-way test in the chat. It's loading. So thank you again, Ted, for super informational, because it's not something that, like Greg was saying, that we super focus on, but we would love to move in that direction.
Sure.
It's something that we've been talking about. So this really helps.
Good.
So we'll close out with the 4-way test. And if anyone has any last minute questions for Ted, y'all can hang around. So the 4-way test are the things we think, say, or do. First,
Is it the truth?
is it the truth?
Truth.
Second, is it fair to
Fair to all concerned.
Third, will it
Build
build
goodwill
Build
and better
goodwill
friendship.
and better friendship.
And fourth, will it be
Will it be
beneficial
beneficial to all?
Beneficial to
all
all.
concerned? Awesome. Have a great rest of y'all's Tuesday night, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks again,
Thank
Ted.
you.
Bye.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank
Good to see
you.
you
Presentation.
soon.
I'll be in touch, Ted.
Great information.
Thank you.